I returned home after having my gallbladder removed. 2 days following the surgery, I was taken back to the local hospital. They discovered a big bile pocket in my abdomen. I was then transferred to a prominent hospital. I'd gone 4 days without eating or drinking, only intravenous fluids and tongue swabs. I was taking a lot of pain medication. The doctor at the main hospital was astounded by the amount of medicine and attempted to reduce it. But I awoke screaming in agony, almost losing my voice. Nurses and physicians raced in, and medicine dosages were increased once more. At the time, I was a regular drinker. A 6-pack a day was not unusual, and I've been informed that this has an influence on pain medication effectiveness. My vitals continued to decrease, I developed a fever, and my gut continued to pour poisonous bile into my body. The specialist arrived and informed me that things did not look very good. "I'm really excellent at what I do," he remarked. "I'm even one of the finest, but things happen and I can't make any promises." I realized the gravity of the situation. They had given me pain medication before to the treatment and had to give me more before the procedure. This was in addition to the anesthetic that had been administered to me. I went through the process and it went well, but my physique had been severely harmed. Once I was back in my room, they began pumping me full of medicines, including additional IV and oral pain medication. I even asked the nurse why I wasn't in pain, and she reassured me that I will need it and that we needed to keep ahead of the pain. After about 20 minutes, I realized I was having to remind myself to breathe. I should have called the nurse, but instead I let myself drift. I remember watching a movie on TV and thinking to myself, wow, these are some fantastic drugs because I feel like I'm at a rave. I was witnessing an amazing variety of colors. I've tried LSD and psilocybin mushrooms, and they're like sugar candy in comparison to what I was feeling. I was soon engulfed in the hues and felt my spirit rise skyward. I began to move through what appeared to be multiple dimensions, like veils of energy. I began to move faster and faster as I was hoisted through each curtain, until I felt like I was going at light speed. I could see mathematical formations that seemed like sacred geometry every time I traveled through a world. I would absorb each one as though I were acquiring all of the universe's wisdom. I had 1,000,000,000,000 thoughts each second. I was aware of everything. I had the feeling I was back in a familiar location. Everything was totally still until I was pulled through the final curtain. I felt like I was in the center of the universe. I could see galaxies gently rotating as they circled me, and I realized I wasn't alone. I was held in the stillness of a global soul. I was overcome with an inexplicable sense of absolute love. I was one with this spirit, full with love and cosmic understanding. I knew I was back home. The presence of love never communicated in any human manner, yet I felt as though I had complete understanding. The next thing I knew, I was awakened by a nurse who informed me that I could finally have something to drink. I was in an extremely horrible position in my life before this encounter. I was drinking heavily and had suicide thoughts. I would have probably done it if it hadn't been for my love for my wife and children. I awoke the next day feeling as though everything had been removed from me. I felt like I was back in sync with the cosmos. Unfortunately, it only lasted a few months. I became progressively melancholy as the recollection of the encounter faded. I did all I could to hang on to that sense of love, but I couldn't. I had stopped drinking, but it didn't take long for all of my old behaviors to return, and I was back in that darkness. I began to wonder what had happened to me and began to dismiss it as a side effect of medicine overdose. The physicians couldn't figure out why I was still in so much agony after the operations. Life appeared to become worse and worse until something unexpected happened. I had YouTube on my TV and was just paying half attention to it. I had allowed it to play random videos. One came on with a person talking about his real-life drug experience. He was talking about how he liked pushing heroin to its limits and had an NDE while doing so. He began talking about being taken up through several levels and seeing various geometrical shapes. That really piqued my interest. He then proceeded to narrate an almost identical incident to mine. The recollections of the encounter suddenly came flooding back to me. I could see all I had gone through again, and a wave of affection flooded over me. I was so overwhelmed that I messaged the YouTuber to ask if he would chat to me more about his experience. I never heard from him, so I began looking for others who had had similar experiences on the internet. I met a couple individuals who experienced NDEs and had similar experiences. I believe it was at that time that I realized I had also had an NDE and that what I was experiencing was true. Following this acceptance, I began to feel a strong want to live. I gave up smoking and drinking. In October, I became a year old. I started exploring more spiritual knowledge and opened myself up to the cosmos more, and things started to alter in my life. For the first time in a long time, I felt at ease. I realized that the spirit is our true nature, and that our earthly existence were provided to us as a sort of reprieve from the all-knowing nature of our true spirit selves. We should spend our lives with passion and as little stress as possible. The more I surrender to that stillness, the greater equilibrium I create in my physical existence. I've grown healthy and even created my own business now that I feel like I have a purpose in this world. I no longer consider suicide. I strive to be more open and understanding. The NDE was the nicest thing that could have occurred to me, and I am grateful for the gift.